Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Maltzel. I'm the CEO and owner of Beyond Indigo Pets. I may have made up one word there today. Welcome back if you've seen us before. We've done 100 plus shows. I've stopped looking. I'll probably look again eventually to see where we're at. But today I have a dear friend on, Dr. Jeff Thoren, who I have just learned so many things from over the years. Jeff and I met in an organization called Vet Partners, where we both still belong. And I've lost track of, I've been in Vet Partners 16 years, so I don't know how long you've been, but that's how long I've known you. So
yeah, that sounds about as long as I've been part of Vet Partners. So
yeah,
we go back a ways.
We go back a ways. So yeah. Jeff, tell the world about Jeff. Who is Jeff?
Well, how much time do we have? Yeah, the Reader's Digest version. I guess I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm an avid road cyclist.
Okay.
And really my career has spanned private practice, veterinary practice, corporate practice, industry, running my own business, coaching and consulting business. And I've become a student of leadership and team development and culture, really what makes a workplace one that's inspired, right? That people really want to be in. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the Reader's Digest version. I guess one other claim to fame is that I am a certified coach, and actually I'm one of only 3 veterinarians in the world who are also credentialed by the International Coaching Federation. So I've kind of combined my background in veterinary medicine with coaching and found that that's really a way that I can contribute in a unique way to the profession.
That's really cool. Now, do you know the other 2 veterinarians?
Yeah, actually one's in Canada.
Okay.
And one I don't know. One is in Australia, and the other one's in Australia. So the one in Canada, though, I know pretty well. So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So you kind of have a story, like how you got this. Like we all have stories of our career paths, and it's never what we think we're going to grow up to be, right? But you kind of had a trigger that moved your career, right? A little bit.
Well, it's been an evolution, really. I mean, it started out. I think the overarching theme would be I was a square peg in a round hole, trying to be in a round hole and not having that go too well. And the evolution was really trying to kind of match up the square peg with the square hole, and it kind of really was involved moving away from the technical side, which is obviously what my training was, to more of the human resources or the people side, which is where my interests were. I mean, that's what really floated my boat. I could do the technical stuff, people told me I was a good veterinarian, but my heart was really in more of how do we build this team? How do we create a vision that people are aligned around and excited about? And so I guess the big pivot was when I left industry, where I was still serving as a technical support role, and I moved to a small corporate group of practices that at that point I was the director of recruitment and development. So that was kind of really shifting away from technical support to HR, or essentially the cultural stuff, the leadership stuff that I had become really interested in. I became a student of that really on my own.
That's pretty cool. And you and I were talking about beforehand about 2020 being like the year in capital letters, right? Like the year with big sound effects in the background, and how like the veterinary profession right now, because you do a lot of coaching, like you said, right? Yeah. So like helping people out and things like that. Burnout is like a thing right now because the engine's just been running in the red for so long, right?
It's been a thing, and now it's even a bigger thing. Yeah, because burnout is physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion, and 2020 has really dished up the perfect storm to create potentially all of those things for many people. And burnout is something that actually I think all of us probably brush up against at some point, or potentially could brush up against. And my story actually goes back to probably late 2018. And it was in early 2019 that I was at a conference, and the speaker shared a quote, which was, if it's not fun, it's not sustainable. And I've always been kind of about lightheartedness and fun. And if at my best, that's kind of how I show up, is in that kind of space.
Right.
And I wasn't feeling that at all. I wasn't feeling like I was having fun. And so I really started to, wonder how sustainable is this path that I'm on. And, there's a lot of background behind that, but I stumbled upon an article that talked about, is it a bad day or is it burnout? Which was a legitimate question for me. And it's probably a legitimate question for people right now, right, in the profession, and dealing with all the things that COVID has thrown our way, plus just other stresses and rapidly changing technology. I mean, it's just all those things really kind of come into the mix. And, a bad day is something that at some level you go, I'm going to get through this and I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But burnout is something that's more, I guess it sits with you. It's more of a state that you don't know that you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so the article then went on to explain, what are some of the symptoms. And this could be useful, because this is really kind of, a diagnostic that people that are listening to this might apply to themselves or others that they're working with. But the three common symptoms that a lot of people that are experiencing burnout, early symptoms and sometimes prolonged symptoms, are: one, emotional and physical exhaustion. And for me at that point in time, the physical piece wasn't as much there, but I was definitely emotionally exhausted, just kind of like, I've had it. So that's the first one. The second one is feelings of self-doubt, ineffectiveness, and lack of accomplishment.
Mm.
And for me, that was big. That was a big one, because I was feeling like, what difference am I making?
Right.
All this effort, what do I have to show for it? And I think in our profession, we have a lot of high achievers, right? We have people that's important. And so feeling like you're not able to do that is pretty significant. So that's the second one. And then the third one was detachment and cynicism. And I was kind of sensing I was spiraling down into that place as well. And so I was taken by this and intrigued by it. And so I take the article to my wife, and I was talking about, definition of burnout, and here's the symptoms. And I started going through the list, emotional, physical exhaustion. I said, check, I'm just checking it off. The second one, feelings of self-doubt, ineffectiveness, check. I get to the third one and I say, detachment and cynicism. Before I could add my own check, she goes, check. So that was kind of my, that was the diagnosis being confirmed right there for me, that, okay, I'm experiencing some level of all three of these symptoms. So I think, that would be important for people now, just given everything that's going on with COVID. Is it just a bad day, or in our case, a bad year?
Right. Like,
or and we'll get, we're going to, I can get through this, or is it something that's created more of a, sustained feeling of burnout?
right. Which is huge. And it's hard to tell, like, it's the same in the grieving world. It is, people aren't clinically diagnosed with depression until they've typically been grieving for 6 months, right? Because the symptoms are so overlappish that, they're looking for the long tail of it versus just the short, sudden moment of it. So you wrote an article, and we're going to put that in the comments so everybody can go and read it if they want to. But you were saying that there was some tips in there, correct?
Yeah. Trey Cutler and I co-authored an article. I think the title was "Douse the Early Flames of Burnout," and it shares those three symptoms. And then we also provided some tips for what are some of the things that you can do, to offset those early signs. Hopefully, know it's coming and prevent it before it gets to the point where you're totally impacted negatively by it. And so there were 6 things. The first one is just know those signs. Know and some of those signs might be unique to individuals. So know your early warning signs. So pay attention to that sense of mental, physical, emotional exhaustion, cynicism. If you notice yourself being the constant cynic, that's maybe a early warning sign. detachment, just kind of stepping away, feeling like, why bother? It doesn't matter. Just that hopelessness, and hopelessness even kind of moving into kind of helplessness. I mean, if those things are starting to appear, then that's kind of a early warning sign to do something about it. Take some other steps to offset that. And the second one, the wording is make work less central, and it could be actually life. It could also relate to life, but this is really about being less busy. You know how when you talk to someone, hey, how's it going? And the common answer is, yeah, I've been really busy. And that's kind of taken as a good thing. Like busy is good.
Yeah, it's rewarded in our society.
It's totally rewarded, and it's sometimes counterproductive. So it's really about, where am I just doing stuff? I'm going through the motions. I'm on the treadmill, but it's not really serving me. So it's like paying attention to where there's places in my life that I'm just overextended and busy for the sake of being busy, because it's rewarded there's external rewards for that, but internally I'm paying a price. So that was the second one, make work less central. And then really kind of related to that, the third one was get off the treadmill and take some time for yourself. So figure out where you might be able to kind of get out, again, in our culture, doing is rewarded more than doing the work involved in deciding, how do I want to be?
Right.
So if you think of an iceberg metaphor,
Mm-hmm.
we have another article in today's Veterinary Business that talks about doing versus being, but doing's kind of the tip of the iceberg that you see, that's external, that's really all about production and getting stuff done and efficiency and kind of rational analysis and IQ. But below the surface, which is obviously using that metaphor as a much larger mass, are things like emotional intelligence, purpose, meaning, values, somatic, just being in touch with your body and your emotions all as a whole. So it's really about getting out of your, doing is kind of being in your head, and then the being part is really about a wholeness or a well-being, a whole well-being kind of approach to life. So looking for ways that you can kind of get off the treadmill and expand your awareness, to other important things. And we've written a lot in that column too about committing to a daily meditation or centering practice. So that's number 4, something that allows you to kind of develop mindfulness, really. Mindfulness is about being able to be present, get out of worrying about what just happened or what's going to happen, and being in the moment and being non-judgmental and just accepting. And acceptance is incredibly hard. I choose a word to frame kind of each year. That's like my theme for the year. This year's word was acceptance, which I've come to regret on many occasions, because it's like, I don't want to accept this, but it's incredibly important to just be able to kind of be present with what is, and not try to have to control it or try to change it if you can't. And then the 5th one, which is also incredibly important, is leaning on your allies. This isn't a time to go alone. This is the time to, if you need professional counseling or some kind of support, reach out and get that. A lot of times, though, if these are early signs, this is about talking to your network, your key people in your network, and say, hey, I'm going through this. What do you think? What are you seeing? How can we support each other in kind of getting through this phase together? And then the last one, which could be controversial on this platform, but it's so you can weigh in here.
Okay.
For me, this was important, and that's try a digital cleanse.
Ah, yes. Well, it actually is hugely important, because we're overstimulated in this manner, right? Like it's good for connecting and seeing people like face to face, right? But don't do this all day and then go watch Netflix all night. Like, go outside, right? Like, get into nature. And I think we're way overdoing electronics right now, partly because it is our connection device, but that leaves it on you to find the balance, you individually.
And that's the key. Kelly, that's the key. Is you, for each person, they have to find the right balance. And many of us are imbalanced towards the doing side of the equation, or the busyness side of the equation, or the distraction side of the equation. So it's really about kind of coming back to who am I? You know, what's important to me values wise, and what makes my heart sing, and all those kinds of deep questions that sometimes get glossed over just because of the world that we live in.
And I think I love your list. And I think one of the ones I've been working on are the shoulds, the invisible shoulds, like the checklist society, whoever they are, say that we should be doing something.
Yeah.
Well, look at that, and maybe we should. We really shouldn't hit pedestrians with our cars. I get that one, right? That's a good rule to have, right? I understand that one. But where's the should that I have to just be on the hamster wheel and doing this grind without getting some peace and beauty for myself? And who says I can't find joy in the small things? You know, like using the analogy explaining joy to somebody yesterday, I said, so if I make banana bread, and that's okay, it's banana bread, but you know what really makes me happy about banana bread is the chocolate chips. So why shouldn't I be adding chocolate chips into the banana bread? Because then every slice I have brings me joy. It's not just joy in the big things, it's the little moments that stop burnout, you know?
Yeah, savoring those little moments and just being present with them is something, because our minds are going off to what do I have to be, and how many emails do I have to reply to, and when does that project due, and
And it doesn't, because I can guarantee you, and you may be the same way, I don't remember any email I wrote yesterday. I know I sent email, but do I remember that email? No, I just know that now it's gone. Like, and even who I sent to is gone, right? Yeah. So why am I freaking out about all of this stuff and causing stress for myself if I can't even remember the big thing? So focus on the thing that brings good memories, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of that is just being able to, again, it's a mindfulness practice. It's about being able to kind of just come back to the present and accept what's there. And, you know, it doesn't mean you give up, but it means you work with what you have, and you're the MacGyver of the, you know, you kind of approach it like MacGyver would. You get some dental floss and some duct tape and
throw it all together and see what you got, right? And it's true, and it's all internal mindfulness. Like, we create our own prisons. It's kind of the invisible prison. You're creating it. And I work with my daughter with this all the time. You know, like, what did you create today? What did you manifest? Did you manifest darkness with your thoughts, or did you manifest lightness? And if it's darkness, did that make your day 1,000 times worse or 1,000 times better? And she's like, hell no, it made it worse. And I'm like, exactly. So why are you doing it? So, you know, we do that. We do that to ourselves.
We all need reminders like that too. And one other thing that's coming up for me that really it didn't make our list. I think in the column Trey and I are writing, we have approached it elsewhere, but the idea of gratitude, of you know, looking at whatever the situation is and saying, what can I be grateful for? And sometimes, you know, there's obvious things to be grateful for, and sometimes the adversity itself has there's a silver lining, or there's something good that comes out of that allows for gratitude to be applied. So that's another practice that we could probably add to our list.
I would definitely add it. Well, speaking of lists, we've reached the end of our time list today, but this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And if people wanted to reach you, you have a website.
Yeah.
So they could reach out to Gifted Leaders, correct?
GiftedLeaders.com. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if they want to send you an email, they can throw a Jeff at Gifted Leaders. So throw a Jeff on the front of that, right? And throw that in there. And you answer your email at that address.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And maybe we'll have you back soon to talk about the iceberg concept. That would be fun.
I'd love to. This has been fun. And it's always a pleasure to share some conversation with you, Kelly. So thank you for inviting me to be part of it.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.